What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind, and today I'll be reviewing Casualty Series 34. There will be spoilers in this review, so without further ado, let's get into it. The 34th series of Casualty premiered on the 17th of August 2019 and concluded after 43 episodes on the 26th of September 2020. It is the final series to be overseen by series producer Lucy Raffetti. She was replaced by Loretta Priest halfway through the series, and series 34 was also the series which suffered a lot of disruption due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This means that on broadcast there was quite a lot of gaps between episodes, which means that series 34 can appear more disjointed than other series. So now that all the details are out of the way, let's get on with the review. The main theme of series 34 is the idea of the NHS under pressure. Now Casualty have handled this specific storyline before, you know, at the end of the day you could say that the entire idea of Casualty is highlighting how much pressure the NHS and its staff are under. But Series 34 really tried to put the spotlight on the pressure the doctors are under and how this kind of spreads throughout the staff of the department. Especially in this series, we see a lot of the time the consultants are under a lot of pressure. They put that pressure on the junior doctors, who then in return put it on the nursing and auxiliary staff that work in the department. So in the end, everyone in the department is under pressure. I think Series 4 handles this theme quite well. Having said that, I have seen it done better, especially in A History of Violence and Breaking Point, which aired in 2024. I feel like in Series 34, they handled it all right, but it could have been done a lot better than it was. Now, as usual, a series of Casualty would be nothing without its characters, and it's fair to say that there are a few characters in Series 34 that have decent storylines. I'd say a prominent character in Series 34 is consultant Ethan Hardy, obviously George Rainsford, one of the best actors on the show at that time, so obviously they were going to focus on his character a lot. Now Ethan suffers PTSD after a bomb attack, which is the series premiere, and I have to say the bomb attack is handled really well. I love it when Casualty do a big stunt week, and the bomb attack is one of those which I think stands out in my mind. Ethan's PTSD is handled very well. As I said, Rainsford is a great actor and he's great at showing Ethan in times of crisis, and I also think it's interesting how Ethan, instead of trying to deal with the events that happened, he instead buries his head in work, and he starts a questionable relationship with a patient called Effie, who is quite younger than him. And I have to say, that was one of those Ethan romances where I was like, hang on a sec, this seems quite questionable here, I don't know about it. But it does lead to some interesting developments with Ethan's character, and by the end of the series we actually see Ethan find a new love interest in the form of paramedic Fenisha, and I have to say I really like these two together. While it was supposed to be a one-night stand at first, there was clear chemistry between the two, and I think Fenisha really suits Ethan's character because she's quite a quirky character herself, so I think that those two worked really well together. Another prominent storyline in Series 34 is the departure of original character Duffy, obviously Kathy Shipton deciding to leave the role after she returned in Series 31, and I have to say Duffy's departure is heartbreaking. Now, her vascular dementia storyline had been very prominent in Series 33, and we continue to see it in Series 34, highlighting how her husband Charlie is struggling to deal with Duffy's deterioration, and then we eventually see that Duffy walks out in the snow believing that she's supposed to be going to work, and she gets hypothermia and then passes away in the department. And I have to say her death is handled so well. I love the fact that even when she is dead, she still wants her organs to be donated to other people. So even in death, Duffy is trying to help others, just like she did in life. And I love the scene where her hospital bed is brought through the department and you just see all the staff lining up. It's just the perfect scene. A Casualty legend really did need a departure like that. And I think especially Derek Thompson's acting as Charlie during those scenes were phenomenal. They really were. New character Mason Reede is an arrogant junior doctor, and I have to say when he was first introduced I thought this is a guy who is just so arrogant and he's going to be humbled through his time in the ED, and he seemed to have a bit of a off and on relationship with Rash. They seemed to respect each other at certain points, but at other points Mason seemed to throw him under the bus whenever he could. And at some points, honestly, Mason doesn't even seem like a very competent doctor. He makes a number of mistakes and tries to make Rash take the blame. So it's questionable whether he's the right kind of person who could have been a junior doctor. But then none of us will ever know, because about 12 episodes into him appearing in the series, he is killed off. And I have to admit, I remember watching this at the time, and no one knew that Mason was going to be killed off, especially as he'd only been in the show for a few months. But his death was quite shocking. They find him dead in a store cupboard, having suffered a heart condition. And I have to say, it was very surprising, and I love how they handled that such a shock death has an impact on the department. I mean, Dylan even steps down as acting clinical lead, which brings Connie Beachamp back into the ED following her departure in series 33. But I really like what they did with Mason's death. I liked how it weren't promoted before broadcast, because it really did leave viewers feeling shocked, that's for sure. The departure of paramedic Ruby Spark is handled really well. Now, you will know if you've watched this channel for a while that I love the character of Ruby Sparks. Not only do I think Maddie Hill is a phenomenal actor, but Ruby's character is just so different to what traditional paramedic characters in Casualty are like. And I have to admit, her departure storyline, it sees the character go full circle. We see her sister Violet introduced, who's heavily pregnant, and obviously Violet is a recovering addict who eventually has an overdose and passes away. And then we see Ruby trying to care for her niece, and eventually she decides that, you know what, she wants to step up. She wants to look after her niece because that's what her sister would want, and she decides that she can't do that at Holby ED, and she needs to just cut free and leave the department. And I think that's such a great full circle for Ruby's character, because Ruby started off as a very by-the-books character. You know, she was determined to be a paramedic, to follow the rules, and to not break with any of the training that she had done. But by the end of her tenure, we see that she's more committed to actually being there for her niece, and she doesn't always have to follow the rules or go by the book. And I think that was just a great character arc for Ruby. Obviously, I was devastated when Ruby left. I would have loved it if she'd been in the show for more than 2 years, but she did get a good exit storyline. Other characters who have exits in Series 34, I have to say they're a mixed bag. Now, I enjoy Iain's departure. Obviously, paramedic Iain had suffered with his mental health, and it had been a long-running storyline, and Michael Stevenson quite rightly wanted a break from the role. But I thought Iain's departure, it was all right. I like how we see Dixie come back and she convinces him to try something new and go off with the air ambulance service. But I don't know, I just feel like more could have been done with Iain's departure. And as for Registrar Archie's departure, very underwhelming, I have to admit. Very underwhelming. Now, I enjoyed Archie as a character, and when Connie returned, I thought that they were going to do a kind of love story between Connie and Archie, because in some of the scenes, especially after Duffy's death, it looks like they're growing very close. But then all of a sudden, Archie gets offered a new job, and because Connie won't let her in, she decides to accept it rather than stay at Holby ED. They basically did Elle's departure from Series 33 with Archie. And I just feel like, you know, Archie had only been in the show for just under a year. They could have done so much more with that character, but they just didn't. So yeah, her exit was very disappointing. We also see new characters in the form of paramedic Lev and advanced clinical practitioner Faith. Now, these are a married couple, and I have to say I really like both of these characters. Faith has gone on to become an iconic Casualty character, and she's really good in Series 34. I love her relationship with Dylan. You know, it's very much, there is just this connection and chemistry between the two. But Faith is happily married to Lev. Or is she? Because what I love about their storyline is the fact that, firstly, it starts off that their son Luca has a rare form of cancer, and we see them both trying to deal with Luca having to go through treatment, and how that would impact any married couple's relationship, the fact that their son is so critically ill. But then it is discovered later on in the series that Lev is actually gay. He hooks up with random men, but he doesn't want Faith to know because he's in the closet. He's trying to ignore who he truly is. And I always thought this was such a great storyline, because Lev is a very interesting character. He grew up in Russia in a far-right family, and he was involved in a far-right gang, and clearly homosexuality was not allowed. It was seen as wrong. So Lev has had to try and shelter his feelings for so long, and he even got married and has had kids. But every now and then he just can't help himself, and he has to just, for a brief moment, be who he truly is. And I really enjoy that character development for Lev, and it was a real shock when it was discovered that Lev was actually gay. But yeah, I really enjoy Lev and Faith as characters. They're really well acted, they're well developed, and they're well written. I think that's all you can ask for with characters in Casualty. And to be honest, the feel-good storyline of Series 34 is the marriage of Nurse David Hyde and Porter Rosa. Now, it was supposed to be just a joke wedding, so Rosa could get a visa and stay in the country, but they began developing feelings for one another, and by Christmas they got married. And I have to say, I love their wedding episode, because it's not so often now that Casualty do a storyline which is just feel good, you know, it just is positive all the way through, but they do it in this episode, and I have to say it is great. I love David and Rosa. I think they were a great pairing, and plus you got a lot of scenes of David and Dylan as well, because I'm pretty sure Dylan was David's best man, which is of course iconic, because yeah, David and Rosa, yeah, they had good chemistry, but we all know that Dylan and David, their bromance, that's everything for Casualty fans. So in conclusion, I always thought that Series 34 was a pretty weak series of Casualty. Now I think that's because you have Series 31, which is the anniversary series, which was a 10 out of 10. Then you have Series 32 and Series 33, which continued that great quality of Casualty. And then you have Series 34, and I just feel it was a step down. Now, obviously, you lost Lucy Raffetti as series producer, and some of you may know that I really ranked Raffetti highly as a series producer. I thought she was great, someone who really understood Casualty as a programme. And I'm not saying that Loretta Priest doesn't. I think she does a decent job, but it just seemed that the quality of the show was starting to dip. Plus, you've got to take into account that the COVID-19 pandemic was happening. That meant that there was transmission breaks, which means on broadcast, the show seemed a bit disjointed, which isn't exactly the series' fault. You know, it's not their fault that a global pandemic happened. But I just think that Series 34 is a weaker series compared with what came before. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, next on my list is reviewing Series 35. Now, this is the COVID series, as many people call it, because Casualty went off air for several months and they blasted back onto our screens in January 2021 with their COVID episode. And I have to say, while I was disappointed with Series 34, the same cannot be said for Series 35. So I hope you look forward to that review, and I will see you in another one. See ya!